First thing about leadership, you must understand yourself first. When you understand yourself, you know what your strengths and weaknesses are. So you double down on your strengths and you mitigate your weaknesses. Two is you need people to follow you lah. That's the definition of leadership. So trust is very important.
Was there any specific time in your life where you realized that Razak name was no longer just privilege, but a heavy responsibility in terms of integrity and trust?
Of course, when Tun Razak passed away, it became such a huge national event that you cannot, even at 9 years old, I realized lah, he certainly left a legacy that has influenced all of us in different ways. Although I wasn't around to learn directly from him, just reading about him, what other people say about him, it has influenced me tremendously. And he's my father. Look up to him. In many respects, I want to be like him.
Your brother was the Prime Minister at that time, and today he is serving a prison sentence. How did this chapter change your relationship with Tan Sri Najib as a brother? Dah hampir 3 bulan kita berehat, and today we are back with a new season of Apa Cerita.
Correct. So a new year, a new set, a new spirit, and most importantly, new lessons for us to learn from.
And this year, our hope is simple, that through the stories that we share here, we don't just get entertained, but we grow, we reflect, and hopefully we become better versions of ourselves.
Before we begin, if you've been enjoying the conversations we've had here on Apa Cerita, do support us by subscribing, sharing this episode with someone you care about, and leaving us a comment on what resonated with you. It really helps us to continue building conversations that matter, not just conversations that trend.
2025 was an incredible year for us. We're truly grateful for the support from our viewers, our partners, and our sponsors who believe in what we're trying to do here at Apa Cerita.
And for our first episode this 2026, we are honored, uttermostly honored, to sit down with someone whose journey spans legacy, leadership, and the quiet weight of responsibility. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nama saya Ashraf Khalid dan bersama saya
Ishraq Kamaruddin.
Welcome back to Apa Cerita, di mana kita mendengar
welcome
kisah individu-individu yang berjaya dan menarik untuk dijadikan sebagai inspirasi dan teladan. Alright, so we're back with new season.
New season.
Yes. And of course, with a very important guest.
Yes.
Alright, Tan Sri Nazir Razak. Alright, Tan Sri, before the titles, before CIMB, before the legacy, I'd like to take you back to a much earlier time. As the youngest son of Tun Abdul Razak, what are the earliest memories that stayed with you growing up at home? Not as the son of a prime minister, but as Nazir, the youngest son, or as the youngest child in the family.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I think, I can't claim to have had a normal childhood. You grow up and by the time I was born, my father was already deputy PM. We just had independence. So that was the context. So as a child, I grew up in an environment where, my father was extremely busy. Two is the house was a village. There were a lot of people and a lot of people coming in and out. So as a child, I think there was a lack of privacy, if you like. I remember that. But, never wanted for anything. It was a privileged upbringing, if you like. But, the context was always there. And my father realized that we could not have a normal upbringing in Malaysia. So therefore, the SOP keluarga is that you are, as soon as you reach 13, you get sent off to the UK to go to boarding school.
And if you remember anything about your parents, adakah any earlier childhood memory with your late father?
Something that until today you still remember, right?
Yeah, of course, but I didn't see that much of him. You
can imagine
for the young generation, kita kena fikir balik konteks. At the time, these guys were independence fighters, right? Then they won independence, and then they needed to develop the country. They needed to set up the administrative system. We had Malaysia, but we did not have Malaysians. There was a lot of work to do. And at the same time, suddenly you have the communist insurgency, you had confrontasi with Indonesia, which is a war.
Yep.
Then you had May 13th. So much was going on. And remember at that time, travel was a big thing, okay? Kalau dia nak pergi luar bandar, it takes a long time. You can't really go for sekejap-sekejap, tak boleh. So you stay the night. And if you want to go to London, that's a 2-week journey. So the amount of time I had with my dad, not so much. But of course, I have these snippets of memories that are important to me. Macam sitting on a chair, him going through my report card and asking me why this thing is not above 90%. Moments like that, him attending my birthday party. So, he tried very hard, but it wasn't enough time. And to add to that, in 1969, my father knew his time was limited. Yeah, they told him in 69, you have cancer and you have approximately 2 years to live. Yeah, so he was in a rush because, the system wasn't all put there, and therefore he had to think of succession just in case he dies and so on and so forth. So it was a difficult time, and he chose. And I have to admit, and I don't mind admitting it, that ada iri hati sikit lah. There was jealousy when I look at other children who had more time from their fathers, etc. But it was I guess the price to pay for service.
As a prime minister punya son, kan, a lot of people think like it comes with privilege, but from the inside, right, what was the quiet pressure that you felt the most growing up in the shadow of such large legacy, and something that maybe people on the outside may not fully see or understand?
Well, first thing is, you can only, as a person, play the hand that you're dealt with. That's the only hand I could play. And the hand had good cards, not so good cards. It's not something you complain about. You just have to live with it. So, macam, for instance, when I always say, it's easy for me to get in the room. But then the expectations when you're in the room are probably much higher because of the branding. 2 is, I can never give people their first impression. They already have it. Whether they look at me as Tun Razak's son, privileged kid, Najib's brother, whatever, they've already decided. They already have an impression of me. So I always have to work hard to kind of
create
the right impression. It's always that second impression that's important, right? The first impression dah ada dah. Nobody, I can't come in on a blank slate lah. And then you have things like, when I first applied for a job at CIMB, they rejected me. And many years later, I found out why they rejected me, because the interviewer, my boss, my prospective boss, didn't believe that I could work hard because of my privileged upbringing. And if CIMB is a serious bank, corporate finance is a serious profession, we don't believe this guy can cut it.
Oh, in fact, it worked against you.
It has worked against me. Yeah. But you don't complain about these things, but just saying that there's two sides.
But I think I can also relate, because macam for me also, I mean in a smaller scale lah, when people meet me, they feel like, oh, anak Datuk K mesti dia ni ada tak boleh kerja, privilege and things like that. But I think it also gives you a sense of wanting to prove yourself as well. Is it the same with you?
Like a burning desire.
For sure.
Yeah, the burning desire
There was
to also have
very,
your own
very
name.
high expectations. And there was also that sense that, I would let him down. I would let his memory down if
His
I
legacy.
didn't do well. And I made very sure that I always told myself, doing well doesn't mean I have to be prime minister or do well in politics. Okay, it's about service. It's about achievement, and you can do that in many different vocations. And today I feel that I chose a career and I did as best as I could in that particular career, and so I'm quite happy lah. In this part of my life, I can look back and say, I'm quite satisfied with what I did.
You think if your father could see what you have achieved, do you think he'll be proud of what you achieved?
Well, I hope so. I hope so. I don't think he was one to think that, the only measure is politics or whatever. And I think he will see that, whilst I was a capitalist, building a bank, etc., but at the same time, there were things that I did to give back to society. And I think that would have been important to him. And I think today, after CIMB, life after CIMB, there's a little bit more emphasis on the, the pro bono, the give back stuff.
I think, and also maybe that's also one of the reasons why you focus a lot of your time on Yayasan Tun Razak as well.
Yes, first iteration was Yayasan CIMB, of CIMB Foundation, which I set up, and that has done a lot of good over 15 years, or almost 20 years now. And then 3 years ago, I joined Yayasan Tun Razak. Actually, I wasn't kind of offered the job. I asked for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I asked for it because I think that this is the platform to preserve his legacy, and this is a platform to promote his agenda, if you like, the priorities of education, developing young, poverty, etc. So that's the objective of the foundation, and I feel that I want to be part of it.
Understand? Amazing.
Tan Sri, ramai orang kenal Allahyarham Tun Abdul Razak as Bapa Pembangunan. But as a father, could you give us like 3 words that best describe him as a father for you?
I think as a father, he was. I think he was quite frustrated that he couldn't spend enough time with his children for reasons I described earlier.
Yep.
He was very warm and kind when he could be.
Okay.
And, in a way, he had to do that because much of the kind of caring was my mother's job. Yeah.
As to our mothers too, probably, right?
And I think the third one, I guess, is that he certainly left a legacy that has influenced all of us in different ways.
Yep.
But I think that legacy in terms of the values and all that, although I wasn't around to learn directly from him, just reading about him, what other people say about him, it has influenced me tremendously. I mean, he's my father, look up to him, and in many respects, I want to be like him.
What were the key values, Tan Sri, if you could?
Well, I think service is definitely one.
Service.
I think from young, he was born. He was unusual because he was born to a aristocratic family. Orang besar.
Yep.
Orang besar Perempat Pahang. But his father left him. He moved away with another family, had another family. So my father actually grew up quite poor. So he understood the plight of the poor.
From rich, and then they had to go through a tough time.
In that way, he grew up basically with his grandfather, and he talks about walking to school barefooted and so on and so forth. So he had a
Tough life also.
He had a tough upbringing, if you like. So he understood service and the need to uplift
Others.
the rural Malays in particular. 2 is service. Part of service is also integrity. And there are many reference narratives about Tun Razak that relate to his integrity. Macam the kind of story I often tell is kita adik-beradik nak swimming pool. Kita kawan-kawan semua ada swimming pool. So we went to see him, ask for swimming pool. Dia mengamuk. He said, macam, how can I use people's money for this? Apa orang kata? So he was, and there's also stories of bila dia pergi on government trip. Ada sekali tu the staff beli ubat gigi and charge to the government. Kena marah. You cannot charge this to the government. And then when the government bagi spending money also, Kalau ada lebih tu dia bagi balik. So
Man
he
with integrity.
He was very, very
Amanah.
firm on that. And that was that generation. Don't forget, that generation really was trying to build this new Malaysia and set, kepimpinan melalui tauladan lah, really leadership by example.
Yep.
And they knew they had to do that. Then I think, you're talking about values and principles. I think he was a very consultative person.
Oh, he asked around?
He would, if you look at some of the famous things that he did, like macam the Razak Education Report, macam the New Economic Policy, he was very clear that it had to go through process. So macam Razak Education Report, there was a system of consultation went all the way down to the parents, cikgu and the parents. Macam the NEP, he had the National Consultative Council to debate, what to do or why were the race riots and how should we change the system in terms of policies, etc. So he was consultative, but at the same time he was very bold. Sometimes you say some people are consultative, they procrastinate, they never get around to deciding. He would consult, and when he decides, it can be very, very
Firm.
decisive, very risky. He was that.
Wow.
And I think he also understood the need to do small things or big things. He could compartmentalize lah. Because priority macam he would go down to the ground and check on development projects, jambatan in that kampung. Or he could go to the White House or he dramatically shifted our foreign policy with his trip to China in 1974.
Wow.
So he knew he could do both, and that's a very important part of leadership. The micro and the
Nothing
macro.
too small and nothing too big.
And he knew how to do that. And I baru 3 weeks ago I was with Tumusa Hitam. Very interesting. He was assistant district officer Kluang masa tu, and then Tun Razak visited. And dia masa tu, the way he did rural development, they had this red book. So every village had a red book. Then this red book was consolidated at the region, and then consolidated at the state, and then consolidated at the deputy PM's office. So this red book was very detailed. That means this kampung kena ada klinik, kena ada jembatan semua. So Tun Razak visited, and they briefed him on the status of the red book. Ini klinik ni dah 80%. He go into that kind of detail.
To that detail.
So then, after they brief, then he said, okay, that day, I want to visit this clinic. Bila dia cakap macam tu, the guy who briefed on the clinic, dia menggeletar dan menangis. Because dia temberang. Aduh. Dia temberang. Because dia kata 80%, but actually 20% kan sekarang. Tun Razak is going to visit and find out. Dia menggeletar terus, So that's how, you cannot visit everything.
Yep.
So you must be able
To pinpoint
to do sampling, so
sample.
that your people, as a leader, your people know, right, that if you don't do your work, you're at risk of being found out and the repercussions of that. These are kind of traits of leadership that you can get
I
from
think
someone like
very
Tun Razak.
important also for business, right?
Correct.
I like the fact macam tadi Tan Sri cakap, your father ask opinions and then make decision. I think that is very important as well.
Correct.
Like you can't just make decision based on your own gut feel sahaja without consulting with others. But at the same time, if you consult too much without making that decision
Also another
things won't work,
Yeah.
Things won't progress. So I think that's a very important point.
Yeah. So Tan Sri, was there any specific time in your life where you realized that the name, given how powerful
Big the statue of the
stature of your father, that you realized that the Razak name was no longer just privilege, but a heavy responsibility in terms of integrity and trust?
I think mostly when he passed away. I think when you're a kid, you just accept your surrounding as this is a given. This is how you're born. You accept the surrounding, and I had that the pin drop on me one day. There was one day when I was 7. My mother forgot to send the car to pick me up from school. Right? in St. John's Bukit
St.
Nanas.
John's, yeah.
So I had to walk back to Lake Gardens lah, where Sri Taman is on my own. Then as I was walking, this kid came up and said he's got nothing to do. Nama dia Ayub Majid. He's still around. I still keep in touch with him. And he came from a very poor family from Kampung Baru. So he got nothing to do. So he just said, I'll walk with you lah. So he walked
All the way.
And I remember as we were arriving to Sri Taman, he almost fainted.
Benar.
No, the thought of the sight of my house.
Oh.
How big my house is and who
He cannot fathom.
and then who I was.
Oh, dia tak tahu.
He had no idea.
Wow.
Dia saja teman je
kita
lah.
semua budak-budak, dia saja teman. Then he suddenly
7 years
realised.
old.
Then his reaction made me realise the gap, right? Which you don't really think about. You know, we're all kids at school.
Ingatkan pengsan pasal jauh. Macam pengsan pasal rumah besar sangat.
And then, of course, when Tun Razak passed away, it became such a huge national event, and you cannot. Even at 9 years old, I think then I realised lah. And then, of course, after you die, people will share stories, etc. Then I really gathered views of Tun Razak and really began to understand how huge this guy was. And I mean, one also needs to balance a bit, which is this. Tun Razak died at the height of his power.
Yep.
Right? You remember when people die at the height of their power, there's very little time for your weaknesses to emerge. Macam dulu I always say, he just appointed Razali, Musa Hitam, Mahathir, all these into leadership positions. All got new appointments. So to them,
Dia the next gen lah.
they owe him lah. They feel a debt of gratitude to him lah, and believe in their strong relationship with him lah. He never had to choose between them.
Yeah.
So you kind of wonder if Tun Razak was around another 5 years or so, he would have to choose, okay, my successor, I pick Musa or I pick Mahathir, whatever. I don't know what could have happened after that lah. But so part of this whole aura is a man who gave his service to the country, sacrificed a lot. I mean, he was dying and he doubled down. When you're dying, he doubled down because the nation needed it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, as a son, I would have preferred him to double down on time
And the
with
family,
me. But he decided that the nation was fragile at that time. After May 13th and so on and so forth, he just formed Warisan National. It was all very fragile. So he doubled down on his work. And on top of that, he had changed the system of government in Malaysia. So when he passed away at the height of his power and having done all this, so I guess his legacy is huge.
Yeah. And I think in hindsight, maybe what he did was heavy for the family, but it was good for the nation because it
That's just what
benefited the nation as a whole. Because I think Tun Abdul Razak was one of the first person that shifted the whole mindset of the Malays to think bigger and things like that, right? So I think, it was important for him to do that towards the end of his, life.
Yes.
life.
And today, I tell you, it's heartwarming when you see. And I was just at a wedding the other day, sat next to Tan Sri Mokhtar. And he said to me, Nazir, if it wasn't for your dad, I'd be driving lorries in Kedah today.
Wow.
Although he never met my dad, right? They feel that new economic policies really opened up opportunities especially for the Malays.
Yep. And the mindset shift that you mentioned, right?
He was the game changer lah, I would say.
game
right?
changer for Malaysia. Yeah.
So, back to current, one of the reasons why I'm involved with Yayasan Tun Razak is actually to make sure that we learn from the more relevant parts of his legacy. And we see what Tun Razak wanted, his policies, his agenda, and make sure we don't misinterpret. I always think that one of the misinterpretation was the way NEP was manipulated. Yeah, because NEP ni is for the betterment of the Malays. It was for eradication of poverty, regardless of race, right? So it's a lot about employment, a lot about education, and government-driven projects, etc. But yet, what the politicians loved about it was allocating shares to Bumiputra.
They didn't get the essence of it.
Yeah, so that became the priority, like bagi, and the giving these contracts to Bumiputra, giving shares to Bumiputra, just made it too easy for a lot of Bumiputras to make money, and then you call them businessmen, right? And then that was the problem I had with it. So I want to spend time trying to correct some of this. I once used the term, the NEP has been bastardized in a sense that, this is not what the founding fathers wanted. Of course, a lot of people say, they panggil NEP bastard. That's the problem with, you have to be careful with your language. So that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
And similarly, I think from Tun Razak, we shouldn't spend so much time on his policies and all that per se, because, macam he set up Bank Bumi or the Petronas Development Act or Felda, etc. These were great things that he did, but they were needed for his time.
At that time.
At that time, that's what was important. So we see that there, that's fine. What we need the next generation to learn is his values, his methods, leadership.
Yes.
And these are lessons that can be relevant to them in whatever situation, not just to the next prime minister, but whether you're running a small team in a company or whatever. These are relevant lessons that you can learn.
And in perpetuity also, forever you can
forever.
take these
The
lessons.
values and lessons.
The
That's what,
essence of it.
That's why, this year, incidentally, next year is the 50th anniversary of Tun Razak's passing. So it's a big year. So I hope to be able, through Yayasan Tun Razak, to kind of shift the narrative a bit on this legacy, to spend more time on the what I call intangibles. In Malay, it's tersurat and tersirat. Right? So it's tangible and intangible. So tangible is okay. Dah banyak written and all that. We want to spend more time on the intangibles. Yeah. So so it's helped the young think of problems, how to process problems, and what are the important values of the nation. Even simple things to understand. Tun Razak, and Tun Ismail and all that were all about building Malaysians. It's all about building Malaysians. Don't forget that.
Build Malaysians, let them build them. The
Yeah.
country.
So when they tried to build Malaysians, and then you had this May 13th, right? They had to take a step back, have the new economic policy, rebalance the economy, right? And then start building Malaysians again. That was always the plan, right? And we forget. We forget. Then everyone say, we must have NEP in perpetuity, etc. I mean, I would love one day to have, a day, we set soon, that by whatever date it may be, we are all born Malaysian. We, of course, we'll be Malay or whatever, but you don't need to put it on your IC or your passport. You're Malaysian.
Yep.
Right? And we all treat the young equally. And we all go to school together. Right? That is the future. And we need to have a plan to get to that future. Right? And have everyone buy into that future.
Understand? All right, speaking of young, Tan Sri, at the age of 13, you were sent to the UK on your own. Probably one of the only Asians there.
Yeah, probably. At that time.
But there's also Tony, right?
Somewhere around there.
On your first night at the boarding house, what did you really feel? Fear, loneliness? I really want to grasp that feeling.
It was.
You remember it still?
Yeah. You remember that feeling. Because you come from a privileged upbringing in KL.
Yeah.
Suddenly you just put on a plane. I think one of my brothers sent me. Just dropped me at the school. And suddenly you're in this, and we went to this quite tough all-male boarding school. And, I was only non-white in my whole house of 60 boys, right? And
You're right.
And it's a rugby school. We played rugby, so I was very good at football, I must say, in utmost humility. And so on that Sunday, we played football. And I was a 13-year-old who was better than anyone else on the field.
Wow.
So this sixth form guy, who was about 17, twice my size, came up to me. If you tackle me again, I shall break your leg. Menggeletar. So and there were all sorts of these little incidences, because they also had not been, this is England in the 80s.
Yeah.
they were still throwing
not-
banana skins onto the football field, right? This was, it was a
Still
very
rough. Still
It was
not-
rough and really quite racist. Yeah, so it was it was tough. It was very, very tough, and I was quite tearful at that time, I have to admit. And I remember and the hierarchy then was when you come in at 13, you have to do chores. Yeah. So my first chore, we take turns to do chores. So my first week, my chore was to clean the milk bottles. So for the milkman to then collect.
Oh yeah, back then.
And so I thought, okay lah, this is terrible. Having had servants all my life. This is terrible, but okay, I can live with it. Second week, I had to sort laundry.
Oh, sort je.
You had to no. You had to move underwear, from one bucket to another. And I tell you, English kids those days,
Mana cuci?
they did not bathe frequently. It was a very, very tough job. That was the worst, most horrible job. So this went on for my first year. That first year, it was chores and trying to get settled in and accepting that.
This is life.
Yeah, this is life lah.
But that's it. And yet you didn't just survive, right? You became the head
Thrive.
of house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is very admirable. How did you compete? Given you're the only Asian and you amongst your British peers eventually emerge as the leader.
Yeah, I was very determined. I think within a few months, I said, eventually I'm going to head this house.
Wow.
So main politik. Build your support base. Everything. Mana lah. So by the end, when they
walk us through that. We want to learn. How did you feel? With the Mat Saleh lagi kan?
You put my housemaster was some racist South African.
Okay.
But I had to put him in a position that he had to appoint me. Because of my relationship with the other kids and so on and so forth.
There's no other choice.
No other choice. So this is leadership skill that I being a leader is one thing.
Yeah.
Making sure you're chosen to be the ultimate leader is another.
Yes.
And of course, sports was a big thing.
And you were good at football, you said, right?
I have football, and I also played in the first team at rugby. Rugby is the
sports there.
the school sports lah. So these kind of things all help.
Elevate your amongst the rakyat.
I'm curious kan, macam of course you as a a Malay boy tiba-tiba pergi dekat UK duduk dengan all the Mat Saleh and stuff like that. Tak pernah ke rasa macam, kan selalu Melayu dia ada rasa macam kecil. Apa orang panggil?
Small lah.
Rasa
Small
diri tu
and
kecil.
terpendam.
Macam tu kan. Macam you sometimes they also get a bit macam rasa macam Mat Saleh ni a bit superior. You didn't have that kind of thoughts or feelings at that time?
No, you have to fight it. You have to fight
But
it.
you did
Mat
have
Saleh
that.
ni kalau you berundut lagi banyak. So you have to stand up lah. And these are a bit embarrassing details lah, but there were times when they tried to bully me, you have to fight back lah.
Yeah. Have to, right?
You have to. Kadang-kadang you kena tunjuk kuku besi sikit.
Yeah.
Actually, once in UK, I just wanted to share one story also, Tan Sri, for me. It's like this Mat Saleh came to me and then I said, can you please bug out of here? They were disturbing my girlfriend. A girl that is a friend lah, not girlfriend. Then they were like, do you realize we are double your size? And then I said, do you realize I'm Asian? I know 14 different Kung Fu. Oh, okay. With that banter.
Lucky you didn't call your bluff.
They didn't call my bluff. They actually went with it. So you're right. You have to put them, in their place sometimes in that context.
I got beaten up once by the town. There was a boys, there was the school kids, and then there were town people. Of course, they didn't like each other. But of course, when they want to beat up the school kids, they find the Asian to beat up.
But my point is macam sometimes kita macam insecure sikit dengan Mat Saleh. We feel like they are smarter than us. We feel like they speak better than us and stuff like that kan. So did you have any of that kind of experience and how did you overcome all this?
More the mindset and what's going inside.
As I said, it's you just have to fight that apprehension. I wouldn't say fear, it's just apprehension.
It's just a feeling.
And you look at it today, I mean, we went to the same universities, we got superior grades. at work we compete, so there's no reason to be inferior. I think if I had to be
that's the word,
if I want to feel inferior, I feel inferior to the Chinese today, not the
Not the Mak Saleh.
Mak
Right?
Saleh.
Mak Saleh not so smart anymore. No, we call their bluff. The Chinese, we cannot call the bluff.
But I feel it's also the sports, I think, right? Tan Sri, you were in the scrum with Mak Saleh, and so that probably also contributed.
But you see, that's classic, right? Because I wanted to be in the first team,
Correct.
and I had to find a position where I could be, because I was small.
In rugby, right?
I was physically small, much smaller than when I was, smaller by a long way. So I found a position right in the wing, where it was about speed of running, and
Those are
it's quite
the-
safe, lah.
Winger, scrum half, these are all the rugby positions for Asians.
But okay, Tan Sri, I mean, of course, being sent abroad forces you to grow up very fast. You had to be mature cepat. You had to, learn a lot of skills, do things that you haven't done before.
Right.
And looking back now, right, what mindset or inner belief shaped you in those days that carried you sampai hari ni as a leader?
I think the first thing about leadership is you must understand yourself first. That is the most important thing. And therefore, when you understand yourself, you know what your strengths and weaknesses are. So you double down on your strengths and you mitigate your weaknesses. And that's leadership. So when you're in the kind of team leader, you construct teams according to the weaknesses or the strengths that you have. That's one. Two is you need people to follow you lah. That's the definition of leadership. So trust is very important. People must trust you. So I remember many occasions at CIMB when I promised staff certain things. So at the end of the year, when they delivered, I had to deliver for them in terms of their bonus. And then many times I told the board, if you really want me to run this company, you have to agree with these things, because I've already promised the people. I set them the incentive. And I remember a few of the CIMB staff, I told them, stick with me. I'll make you all millionaires eventually.
Wow.
And I said that to them. And I made sure that in terms of the balance of economic allocation between shareholders and staff, it was fair.
So not so capitalist lah.
Huh?
Not so capitalist lah. Still had Dr. Razak in you lah.
No. Yeah. Even more than that, but you also then make sure that the people at the bottom also. I always say that running CIMB was always about being able to compensate traders millions and tellers as well. Understanding what their needs are, and that relates to my third point is empathy. You must empathize when you communicate. Don't give the same spiel or speech to everybody. People have different expectations, different personal situations. You must always put yourself in the person's shoes. Tun Razak used to be, some people called him the commander-in-chief of the civil service.
Wow.
It was the glory days of the Malaysian civil service. And people loved working for him because I think he was a civil servant right before he went into politics, and he understood how the civil servants think and how to communicate with them, how to get the best out of them. So this empathy in leadership is very important. If you just want, you believe in your own BS and just give whatever speech you want, I think that's when I think you can fail.
And gaps start to exist.
Yeah,
right?
and gaps, correct. So empathy is very, very important. And I guess fourth is this whole issue of integrity. And here, I talked about Tun Razak's integrity just now, but also in the corporate scene. Yeah, there are many companies in Malaysia today that even today still struggling because there was a time in their history when the leaders were corrupt. Right? that really destroys the organization. I think when you worked in CIMB during my time, you never doubted, right, that the top of the organization was just trying to do the best for the organization. There was never worry about side deals or contracts to friends and all that. That was really off the charts, right? In an organization
Never
like
thought of,
CIMB. Yeah, you just never thought of it. So it's very clear. We all work on the same team. We're all one team. But then when you look at many corporates today, they fail because the boss gives contract to friend, things like that. And it destroys the culture, and it's very difficult for organizations to recover. I won't mention names, but some big organizations today struggle to recover because it creates this culture that's very, very tough to undo.
Okay, Tan Sri, I want to move on after your university life, right? Or after your studying era, kan? Given your upbringing and early exposure to politics through your father, many would have expected you to, naturally follow the same path. But you made a very deliberate choice to build your career in corporate world. What was important to you about carving your own path rather than walking a road that was already familiar?
Well, I think the fairer way to look at what happened was my brother was already in politics, and
But only one, right?
only one. But I think it would have been
Divide and conquer strategy.
it would have been difficult to have more than one, especially as he was rising fast. And two is, even if I thought that at the time that even if I were to go into politics, I need to make some money first. I need to build my own name first, and I need to build some other skills first. I think those who don't go into other careers first, go straight into politics, suffer for it because you don't quite understand what it's like, how to empathize with businesses and all that as you lead the nation. It's very difficult to empathize properly. I don't mind. I joke with Syed Saddiq this. I said, you were over promoted in your life. I told him. So I went into banking without necessarily closing the door on politics. Then, as I built my career in banking, then I realized, actually, this is my calling, and I can do so much more in CIMB. And as I said, we built, I think, an institution that the country can be very proud of, contributes tremendously to national development, and we also did a lot of things to help society at large. So I think that was my path.
And I want to ask you, right, when you made that decision, right, or when you were out of university, did you have a dream of what you wanted to be? Did you imagine yourself would be all this corporate leader, building a huge bank and stuff like that, or did it come naturally to you?
No, my bit like when I went to school and I wanted to be head of house. When I joined CIMB, I wanted to eventually be CEO of CIMB.
Wow.
But at the time, CIMB was a small place. When I joined, I was employee number 69. So even when I became CEO, the organization was maybe 500 lah. So CIMB was a very different place lah. So ambition in that way was limited. Then, or had become CEO of CIMB, then the ambition changed. I thought, hey, we could make something really big and great out of CIMB. So it wasn't all pre-planned all the way lah.
Yep.
But do you think dreams are important?
Yes, dreams are important, and writing them down is important. And I kind of wrote down that dream of being CEO of CIMB, but when you achieve it, you can't stop. You got to write the next dream, right?
New dream, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe for the younger audience out there, because some people, they believe in dreams and having the right dreams, writing down and stuff. But some people, they macam tak percaya kan impian ni kan. They feel like dreaming is just a waste of time.
Too far off.
And maybe like the question I want to ask you, macam mana you put that dream and make that dream into a reality? Is there any methods or any ways to do that?
No, I think you always have to. Well, first of all, the dream's got to be realistic lah. And as I said, I only dreamt of being CEO of CIMB. I didn't think of building CIMB into what it became. So dreams, I think it's good to have it in
Phases.
Yeah. And two is when you then feel that it's a achievable dream. It's realistic, ambitious but realistic. Then you got to draw the how-to. Yeah, the how to do it.
planning.
To plan it. And various stages of my life, Actually, before I became CEO, I took some time off to plan my first 3 years at CIMB.
Oh,
Wow.
I wrote it all down and I followed it.
For the company.
Wow.
Yeah. That when I become CEO, this is what I'm going to do. And I followed it. I prepare, okay, these are people who I'm going to promote. These are new structures. I planned it all. So you have to plan. Planning is important.
Yeah. Like they say, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail, right?
Correct.
So I think
So fast forward to today, right, Tan Sri, when people think of CIMB, it's like a huge bank across ASEAN. But when Tan Sri first joined, he was not like that at all, as you mentioned. On your first day as CEO of CIMB, at the age of only 32, right, what was the biggest fear you never told anyone about, Tan Sri?
I never told anyone about. But I guess you always fear failure. You fear failure. And, because of, I guess, my brand, failure would be very high profile. The higher you go, the louder your fall, right?
Yeah.
So I feared failure for sure. And then it was about how to get everybody behind me. The problem was CIMB at that time, I think the entire leadership team had been my bosses. Right? I kind of jumped.
Yeah, right.
So
you potong semua orang?
I potong. it's a
Sebab you
Sama macam kat sekolah.
it was a bit technical, but I kind of moved around a bit. And that's it. You strategize. The real story is I timed it right. In 1993, after 3 years in the bank, I moved to the stockbroking. And then there was the bull run. And the stockbroking then suddenly
growth.
was where all the money was. All the profits were.
So Nazir look good.
And then, so when they were looking for a new deputy CEO, very hard to look away from me because I was controlling the
It was strategically
the profits.
that
So
way.
strategically.
Very nice.
So then I went back to the
But
bank.
did you know about that? Did you know that was going to have a growth? Or was it a strategic decision?
Look, in life, you got to have luck. You got to have luck. You can strategize. You can, maybe I thought about it a little bit or whatever, but you got to have luck.
Yeah, there was one, Mark Cuban said, if any billionaires out there say they did it all themselves and without luck, they are lying.
You didn't.
They are lying. Right?
A little bit of luck, but of course with the right planning.
Correct.
you know?
And everything. Yeah. And I didn't know about this first 3 years. Tan Sri already wrote it down, all the strategy. That's probably some way of managing the fear, I would assume. Tan Sri.
But when we talk about fear of failure, right? Maybe, is there any failure that you had to go through and then any...
Plenty.
Yeah.
And how did you come out of it?
Success is found at the corner of failure. I believe that phrase. And there were times when, there was the famous CIMB listing.
Yep.
I had listed hundreds of companies, so I thought I was very good at it.
Other people's companies.
Yeah, other people's company. And then CIMB got listed, and it was terrible. The share price, was basically at IPO for about 4 months, and I listed hundreds of companies. It was the only listing where there was no celebration because I was so embarrassed. I thought I was such a cool investment banker. My own company, koyak.
But were you like being hard on yourself or was it?
No. It was, we let ourselves down. I think we got too cocky, whatever, I don't know. Then I got my senior guys in the room. I said, look, guys, we don't stick our head in the sand. We figure out what is it we did wrong. Because our company is worth so much more. It's just the market didn't want to pay for it. So I did. Then we found out then we figured out how to do it, which is that we kind of stupidly issued a dividend. So CIMB IPO was RM1.70. Within 4 months, you got a dividend of 40 cents. Right? And so it was such a crazy thing to do that all the investors said, who are these crazy guys? So then I got another chance to go around the world to tell people about CIMB. And then then the rest is history. For the next 3 years, our share price went up 343%.
Wow.
You know, but so from the from failure, from the edge of failure,
Itu yang cakap corner tu. Corner baring.
you you know, you really, and there were many lah. You failure ni, you must learn the lessons of failure lah. Don't stick your head in the sand. Learn it. You know, it's in my book that one of the worst traumatic incidents of my life was, I think, in my first 3 months at CIMB, I prepared a document those days on behalf of a client to submit to the authorities lah, to seek a listing. And the draft, I handed over to my boss for him to review. Dia panggil I kat bilik dia. He said, this is the worst piece of work I've ever seen in my life. Dia ambil, dia ketuk kepala I. Yeah. And
Physically ketuk.
Physically ketuk. And, you know, it's an open plan office. So everybody saw lah.
Wow.
You could hear a pin drop. And so I had to walk back right across the other room to the other side of the room where my desk was. And I swore that would never happen to me again, right? And it probably was the best thing to happen to me. You know, you
At that point in time.
kind of like, you know, born with a silver spoon. That was the most humiliating experience. It was good for me. I picked myself up from there.
It's good that you didn't suck.
Yeah.
Kan, some people would just suck.
Budak-budak hari ni, I think
Berhenti
it's suit, man.
I think you're not far from the truth.
I saw my ex-boss the other day who did it. He said, "Are you sure I did it?" I said, "Yes."
you didn't remember.
I think he's trying to forget lah. But those days you did that, you know.
Selective memory. This
No, but those days you could. You know, those days you could. These days tak boleh lah.
Yeah. So speaking of fear, just now, Tan Sri, and moving forward as a CEO, then during the Asian financial crisis and the subsequent global financial crisis, I want to relate back to also we interviewed Rajate Maimuna.
I think she
before.
was under your team, right?
Correct. So she was mentioning
She had a lot
about
of nice things to say about you.
correct.
Oh, good.
Yeah. She was saying that if anybody said that Tan Sri was using Tan Sri's father's name and family and all that to get to where you are, she said, you guys, that's completely untrue, according to her, because she saw everything, all the workings and, you know, how Tan Sri, the work that Tan Sri put in. So, what did you discover, Tan Sri, about yourself as a leader at this moment of time? I would imagine it's
Time of crisis, right?
time of crisis. Yeah. What have you discovered
Well,
as a leader?
Firstly, we were lucky in the Asian financial crisis because CIMB, despite being a bank, didn't lend a lot of money. Right? So we actually went into the Asian financial crisis as, I think, something like 4th or 5th merchant bank in Malaysia. We came out of it number 1.
Wow.
So my lesson from the Asian financial crisis is this saying from Game of Thrones, which is chaos is a ladder.
Chaos is a ladder.
We took advantage of the crisis. We took advantage of the situation with our competition. Everyone was in disarray. We lost money, but not as much as everyone else because we didn't lend. We just did a lot of advisory work and so on. So the Asian financial crisis, when I look back on it, it was scary. And, you know, it could have been, you know, of course, we could have lost a lot more money, but we protected ourselves, you know, and so on and so forth. But there was no near-death experience. And because we went in strong, we came out
number 1.
very, very strong. The global financial crisis, nothing, because we learned so many lessons from the Asian financial crisis, and most banks in Malaysia didn't feel it. Yeah, the problem was after that. Yeah, then you know, there were choppy waters lah, because there were gyrations in the markets after the financial crisis. There was the kind of commodity super bull run and so on and so forth. There were problems later, but the global financial crisis, no problem.
Interesting.
All right, Tan Sri, thank you so much for sharing so much of your early life and how you started with CIMB. We're going to take a short break for a while. After this, we're going to talk more about CIMB and how you brought CIMB into an ASEAN level institution. And we're going to talk more also about the 50 years legacy on Tun Abdul Razak. And we'll catch you guys after the break.
See you guys in a bit.
All right, welcome back to Apa Cerita.
Welcome back.
Okay, Tan Sri, in building CIMB into a truly ASEAN level institution, you didn't just follow the existing norm. You thought beyond borders and scaled globally at a time when many were still thinking locally, right? So how did you balance that big global ambition with the need to remain grounded and also humble, values that Allahyarham Tun Abdul Razak himself strongly emphasized, especially as power and success grew around you?
Yeah, it was difficult. And I think in 2014, when I decided to step down from CIMB, being CEO, part of that reason was I really felt that I had become too powerful in the organization.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And I had become, a constraint to institutionalization of CIMB. Because as an institution, you can have the process, you must be people neutral, etc. And I think CIMB needed a leader like me during that kind of accelerated growth period. Then in a period when it needs to be more stable, look after the plumbing, etc., it needed to be a different leader. So then, I felt that processes were being bypassed because people would just, rather than going through committee, all that, telefon bos. Bos kata, okay, jalan. Yeah. So that's not good. And that happens when you've been CEO for a long time now. I think Harvard Business Review says optimal duration for a CEO is about 7.5 years. I've already been 15.
Wow.
15?
Yeah,
Double
15
that.
years as CEO. So I thought, that was the right time for me to go. And as I said, I used to do this thing where you look at the mirror and say, what are my strengths and weaknesses? And am I still suited for the job that I'm doing? And at that point in time, I said, no longer. That's why I stepped down. And it is difficult to remain grounded. And I think, I'd like to think that I was able to. But, you ask, like, some, like Tony Fernandez, he always says, when you were a banker, you're so arrogant.
Oh, really?
That's other people's perception lah. Kadang-kadang banker ni, you cannot be so chummy with people also.
Dia ambil duit semua.
Maintain a bit of distance, So maybe because I didn't lend him money.
I heard he had to go to Sabah, right?
No, the story is I didn't know him.
Oh.
And they needed to borrow money. He and your father needed to borrow money to buy, to go into the business. And they came to see me. They pulled some strings and got an appointment to see me. I didn't know how I sat in.
Typical Malaysian style.
Yeah, Malaysian style. They came into the room and wanted to borrow money. And I said for what? I said to buy a plane. I said, okay. So what's your experience? Oh, I was with Warner Records. So I said, the door is there.
No wonder he said you were arrogant.
Yeah. So I think he didn't talk to me for a long time. And then a few years later, they were going IPO. Oh. And it was going to be a very exciting, big IPO. And I couldn't believe CIMB wasn't on the deal.
Oh.
So I went to beg him for a role. So he happily invited me to lunch and lauded over me. And I said, please, can I be on your IPO and all that? So he enjoyed telling me to get lost.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I told him to get lost. Then he told me to get lost. We were evens. And then our friendship began.
Oh. But that's funny. Kesian tu dia. Nobody believe in them.
Yeah, but if you look at
at
it
the start,
on hindsight, right, that's
I mean,
what it is.
As a banker, of course, you have to
Manage the risk.
decision based on.
Yeah, but that's why I think, for a developing country like ours, we need to shift away from too much banking, more to private equity, venture capital, which is what I'm doing today.
With A-class capital.
We need that kind of partnership with entrepreneurs. That's, I think, the more important capital.
Yep.
You know, because banks, you know, they won't take that kind of risk. They want small track record and all that. They say when it rains, they take the umbrella away.
Yep.
Of course, like as I mentioned just now, like masa tu, most banks were thinking locally, right? And you guys scaled into ASEAN level, and you know, you think beyond that. And I remember you guys, you know, did all the internet punya banking and stuff like that. Kan? So what made you, you know, think that way rather than, you know, just compete in the?
Well, I think it is competition. It is wanting to excel. It is, and we were lucky in a way that, you know, for an emerging market bank, one of the easiest thing is to do CPA, be cut paste artist. So you look at what they were doing in the West.
What is that? Cut paste artist?
Yeah.
Follow
Follow.
model
Oh, okay. Model for the West.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Tiru basi lah bahasa kita.
tiru basi, yeah.
Yeah, we call it.
And we did. And
CIMB also tiru
yeah,
basi.
so in that way, I look at what happened in the West, and you look at the way banks regionalized, etc., diversified. You know, CIMB survived actually because we diversified early from equities to bonds. And at that time, during the Asian financial crisis, when the governments needed the bond market, all loans had to be restructured into bonds, etc., only CIMB had the infrastructure for the bond markets.
Wow.
You were ready, yeah.
We were ready. That's why we became number one. We were ahead of our time because we looked at the West and said, okay, after a while, when everybody gets funding from the equity market, then grows the bond markets. Yeah, where, you know, instead of borrowing from banks, people borrow from bond markets where they get cheaper. So we knew that was coming. So we prepared. And the luck was that when the Asian financial crisis came, nobody else had prepared.
Wow.
So that's when we really took off and became number one investment bank. Then bila dah jadi number one investment bank, then the problem is when you're number one, what do you do? The best you can do is stay number one. Right?
Yep.
And you're always defending number one. So then I figured, hey, we can't do this, you know. We'll just, you know, people will just, and then the foreigners were trying to come into Malaysia, then they'll eat my market share. I'm not going to stand here and eat and have our market share eaten. Let's go and eat other people's market share.
Then you
so
go
that's
other
when
countries.
we started to regionalize, and that's when we quite dramatically bought GK Go. But at that time, Singaporeans would buy Malaysian companies. So nobody quite believed that we went the other way around. We went there, bought
Only Tan Sri
100%.
Nazir would do such things, right?
So that was very daring. So we bought this GK Go, which came with a investment bank platform all the way to Hong Kong and Indonesia and Philippines and all. So that was.
So you guys became a like ASEAN.
Yeah. Then that was around 2005. Then the other thing that happened was the accountants were losing their prudence, right? What I mean by that is that those days accountants were okay when you hide profits, right? But CIM and investment banking is very volatile, so we had to hide profits to kind of show it when, you know, to smoothen our earnings lah. Suddenly the accountant said you cannot hide. When you make money, you have to declare. So then I said we're going to have a problem because CIMB was very highly valued in the markets, but investors don't like volatile earnings. So then this way of doing things was out of the window. So then I said, we cannot remain an investment bank. We had to become a universal bank. So that's when we use the high valuation of CIMB to then buy banks. We bought Bank Bumi, then we bought Southern Bank, then we bought banks in Indonesia, etc. That's the reason for that transformation. Like it was also partly because of need. I believed in ASEAN and regionalism. So that's a whole story in itself. And then also because being an independent investment bank was not sustainable. We had to become a universal bank. So that's why we made all this acquisition. Then the whole business changed. Yep. You know, we went from like, by then in 2004, we were about like 1,000 people. And suddenly overnight, we were 15,000. Wow. You know, buying banks.
Sebab
Bank Bumi and all that. So at that time, I said to myself, boleh ke ni? Then I had to be macam politician lah. Because those days I knew how everything worked. I knew everybody in the organisation. And suddenly
15x.
we had all these branches all over the country, and we had
and people that you might not really
and
know.
a lot of them were
From 500 people to
1,000 to 15.
1,000 to 15.
yeah, and then eventually became 40.
Yeah, 40.
And that was the scale of the growth. And then ways you communicate with people, the limitations of your understanding of the business that you're accountable for, all these changes, and you need to be able to grow yourself. And that's a challenge. Right? When you change the business, you have to change yourself. Then you have to keep asking, can you continue to change? And that's why I go back to 2014 when I said tak boleh lagi. Yeah, that's why I handed over to Zafrul at that time, because I just wasn't the right CEO anymore. So yes, you're right. Regionalization was against the grain, but it's also partly because of business need, and partly because I really believe that Malaysia is too small a market. If you're too small a market and you don't regionalize, then the foreigners will just come in and attack you. So we wanted to build a bank that was of regional scale. Banking is a scale game. You must be big. You take a simple example of, say, sponsoring Nicole David.
Yeah.
If you have a small business, right, you have
Can't
to bear the
leverage,
same cost. But suddenly you have a huge business,
Sikit je lah
right,
ni,
sikit je lah. Right? So that's the basic view of definition of scale lah. So suddenly we built this scale across ASEAN lah, which is very exciting. And and back to Tun Razak. Tun Razak was a founder of ASEAN. So I found
he
that
was the founder of
yeah,
ASEAN.
he was one of the 5 signatories of ASEAN. ASEAN came about because of the Konfrontasi. Right? Then they basically said, look,
1970s it was
1967 ASEAN was formed. Konfrontasi came, was when we formed Malaysia. Then after the peace, then they decided to form ASEAN. So the most famous picture of the launch of ASEAN is Tun Razak, one of the signatories lah. And he was one of the founders lah. In that way, you go to the ASEAN Secretariat, there's like cardboard of all 5 of them standing there. Lah. So I think ASEAN is a great political platform for all of us to kind of gang up. Right, but over time we have to be more than a political platform. We have to create the business connections, make ASEAN more relevant to our economic beings. Right, so that's why CIMB believes so much in this, and that's why we built that franchise across ASEAN. So those days our tagline was CIMB ASEAN for you. Yeah, and some people say we were a bit ahead of our time, which is probably correct. We built this, tapi the rules and regulations for operating in multiple countries not ready. Today it's almost ready, but this was 10 years ago, right?
Yep.
That's
In
right.
Asia as well, they were pushing towards ASEAN as well.
Same thing, yeah. Tony copied from me.
I could see some relation.
And when you pass the baton on to Zafrul, right? Do you think that was the right decision? Do you think he was the right leader for CIMB? And
Yes, I mean, I thought long and hard about it.
And what made you actually choose Zafrul instead of?
Because Zaf has a balance of skills that I think was suitable for CIMB at that time. And CIMB's been lucky. It's had the right leaders at the right time. And then Zaf handed over to Dato' Rahman. And again, he had the right skills for the right time of CIMB. And Zaf is also, a very good people person. And
He can go into politics.
And he's
already.
of course, he's more suitable to politics than banking. But at that time, I remember masa the 2018, I think any other CEO appointed by me would not have survived. But Zafrul survived the change in government and all that, right? He survived. I was kicked out, but he survived.
Yeah. Okay, Tan Sri, the story of your departure from CIMB was not an ordinary resignation. CIMB was a major institution that you helped build, and the leadership and political landscape in Malaysia was also changing at that time. So when you decided it was the right moment for you to step down, what was the hardest internal conflict you faced as a person with deep ties, as a leader, and as someone who's committed to doing what was right?
The truth be told, I was planning to leave CIMB after I hit 30 years. And in 2018, I was 29 years. So there's about 1 year to go because I felt that, I'd been CEO for 15. I thought chairman for 5 years cukup lah. And then once I leave, then, the business will be depersonalized. And that was the plan. Because to me, my job was to build CIMB as an institution for the long term. Today, when I look at CIMB's success, I'm very proud because, some people, they get very proud when they leave an organization, the organization jatuh, we missed him, right?
Yeah.
Not for me. To me, we want it to prosper. And
Despite you tak ada kat sana.
the true success of a leader is that the organization is successful after he leaves.
Yeah.
Right? That means you really built the institution.
Laid the right
That's how
foundation.
I felt. Tapi the new government at that time, for whatever reason, decided that I had to leave. So it was, in a funny way, it made it easier because I didn't have to make the decision myself. I had no choice. They told me to pack up, and so when I left, I didn't feel guilty towards the people because I didn't want. I'm very close to the people there, and in a way, it took that decision away from me. Yeah, and I think I did. I handled it in the right way in the sense that I went off to Oxford. And that gave me the distance. Kadang-kadang, if you leave an organisation, you've been there for so long, you bangun pagi tu pergi office. I'm not here anymore.
Automatic.
Yeah. But if truth be told, I look back at that time, and many of us were removed. Azman Mokhtar, Wahid, me, and a few others were removed. I think that was not the right way of handling things because then you basically deem GLCs as political, right? That means it's the right of the new government to then change all the leadership of GLCs. So it kind of, in a way, that period kind of strengthened, enhanced the ties between politics and business, which we had spent our time trying to break. So that was rather unfortunate. Still today, I don't really understand it. But there it is.
But Tan Sri, I want to know not on a corporate punya, as a corporate figure, tapi as a human level, kan, as a person, kan, someone that has built the company for 29 years, and then suddenly you are asked to pack your bags and leave. So how did you actually feel, and how do you take that? And be okay with it.
I think you just have to accept it. And as I said, you find your own way of handling it. I was lucky in a sense that I found a place in Oxford very quickly. And Oxford is
A lovely town.
a lovely place and can really consume you as well. Yeah, and I think I the good thing is I miss the people most, and yet the people kept in touch with me, and the company was good. We set up the CIMB alumni. We all kept in touch and so on. So today, most people in my golf gang are ex-CIMB.
Wow.
Everywhere I go, there's CIMB people, and generally the fact that they come up and are still nice to me means I was okay lah, as a boss. So you meet CIMB alumni in the strangest places, because don't forget CIMB those days was all the way to India, to Taiwan, etc. So wherever I go, there's CIMB alumni.
Understand. But did you have any moment yang macam you rasa sedih ke, ataupun you were like straight away thought macam
I tell you what happened.
That's how you are.
So after they told me to leave, then I said okay, and that had been a very stressful year, for many reasons. First of all, I had been quarreling with my brother and his gang. They were really attacking me, and then there was the GE and my brother falling, so that also in a way affected me. People get very confused of whether which side I was, right? So, total confusion. I was also confused. Because, at the one time, you thought, okay, warisan should be, it was, the time was, that it was time for them to go. But at the same time, when they actually went, I kind of felt bad because, that was my father's legacy and my brother was PM. So it was very confusing. So stressful lah. And then immediately after that, there was all these investigations and all that. So it was a very, very stressful time. So then after I retired, the first thing that happened was I got cancer.
Oh,
Right? So I got cancer. So maybe the cancer helped lah in a strange way, because then you're totally focused on staying alive. Right? So it was about what do I need? How do I treat this cancer? So,
At the same time, 2018.
I think I resigned from CIMB in October. They confirmed cancer at the end of October. And stress triggers your cancer cells.
But you were stressed lah at that time.
Very stressed lah. Everything was happening.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Cannot understand.
Masa tu ban MDB investigation. They were firing all directions.
Yeah.
The police even raided my mom's house. Right? And you know how stressful it is, right? My mom was alone at home. My mom was really cute because she was alone at home. And about 20 policemen came to raid the house. And at that time, she had been told, she had this, a week earlier, she had asked for a change in bodyguard. She gets a bodyguard as ex-PM's wife. So when she came out of the house, there were 20 policemen there. She thought she was being asked to choose which one she wanted. Sometimes sometimes in the strangest of times there's humor lah. She just nak pilih macam mana ni?
Too many choices.
But it was traumatic for her, because at that point in time, then suddenly when she realized it was actually a raid, then she had to call her sons. Don't know where we were. We don't live with her, so it was quite chaotic. So all these things were very stressful. It triggered it lah. So then I had cancer. So then I had the surgery and then recovery and all that. So
Are you okay from cancer now?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And today I spend a lot of time again on the other side campaigning for people to be aware of the risk of cancer, prostate cancer, and what you need to do about it. Because I was lucky,
Caught early?
I caught it early enough lah. Unfortunately, the guy told me that you need emergency surgery. It's about if you don't 3 or 4 months, this thing can spread. So I had to do emergency surgery lah. So and it's quite an elaborate operation, to say the least. So I was flat out. So in a way, I don't know lah. Maybe one could say that I was lucky I had cancer lah. So in a way, it helped me kind of forget about CIMB.
You can
glass
put
half full.
Glass half full, yeah.
You can put a positive spin on anything.
Glass half full. So I was okay.
Yeah.
I was okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure that moment also, shaped you to be who you are also. And also, you got to learn a lot from that experience.
Well, I can tell you, life-threatening experience is life-changing.
Yeah.
So you really look at things very differently after that.
Tan Sri, moving towards the legacy section and also Ashraf's naughty bits. So when we talk about leadership today, what does berkhidmat kepada rakyat? Like how Tan Sri also mentioned that one of the words to say of Almarhum Tun Razak was service, as practiced by the late Tun Abdul Razak.
No, I think as I said, the important thing is what can the future Malaysians leaders learn from him? What can we take away from him? And service to the nation is important, but how you do it is for your own
Choosing.
to choose lah. So even today, people say, students come up to me and say, should I come home to work? Or should I work overseas? I say, it's okay. Work overseas, learn more, and come back. Get the experience and come back. I think at the end of the day, one must come back. We are Malaysians. We need to come back and serve this country. And never give up. Whatever you think of the government of the day, whatever, never give up.
You are your country, right?
You are your country. And I believe that. 2 is, I think, appreciating the sacrifices of the old generation is important because we take what we have for granted. But we need to preserve it because, these guys, they sacrifice their lives for it.
Yep.
Not just Tun Razak, but Tun Dr. Ismail and many, many others even before them sacrifice their lives to fight for independence and, the right to build this independent nation. It's interesting now you have this new albatross files and so on and so forth. History is in a way being rewritten.
Yep.
But it's okay. We still must remember that we are, with Sabah and Sarawak, one nation, and one country. We still have a nation to build. Right? Then, how do you lead? Integrity is important. Empathy is important. I mentioned consultation is important. These are the kind of traits that we must learn. Kemudian Tun Razak was also high on execution. Right? Tun Razak was not this
Idealist.
He's not idealistic. He's very pragmatic. He's not so charismatic. Not like Tunku Rahman. Tunku Rahman gave fantastic speeches, and he was very loved in that way. Tun Razak was loved because of the practical things that he did.
His mind.
The execution
Was very focused. Tun Razak, when the early days, Tunku was the chairman, Tun Razak was the CEO, if you like. They worked as a pair. They were very close, those two. And therefore, as deputy prime minister, which is not quite the same today, he was very involved, especially in rural development, confrontasi, ASEAN, and so on. He was very involved, so much so that Tun Razak, more than anyone else, I would describe him as a master builder of Malaysia today.
Master builder.
Yeah, and forgive also the fact that master builder didn't know everything. Master builder made decisions that today some people may disagree with, and it's okay. But what would not be right is to accuse him of anything else but trying to do the best for the nation, and that's very important to me. Yeah, he made controversial decisions for sure. So much so that people called him a communist. He was quite left wing in a way, and then some people disagree with the new economic policy, for instance, and I think disagreement is fine. But they wanted to build this nation and they did these things which they felt after consultation was the best possible way forwards for the nation. And I think, the non-Malays that were around Tun Razak those days, Tun Michael Chen and Sambantan and all that, they all said without the new economic policy, we would not have Malaysia today. So we must understand that history. So one of the things I want to do, apart from just this, promoting Tun Razak's intangible legacy, is also to think about the Tun Razak Memorial and how it can do a better job in being a place where the young can visit and learn about leadership, learn about the history. It's going to cost a lot of money, but we're planning it now. I don't know whether I can get the money, but I think it's a very worthwhile project. Because today the young, some people really don't know about why it is. I mean, you look at the NEP, I completely understand from a macro perspective, even those who agree on a macro perspective that is the right thing to do, we must remember at the micro level, there was a lot of pain. The non-Malay who got straight A's and cannot get scholarship, cannot get a place at university, it's very painful for them. So those are some of the things maybe Tun Razak didn't fully figure out. I think the mobilization of the civil service, right, or the government, the state apparatus for, government linked companies and government projects and all that, I think gave rise to a lot of opportunities for corruption. And I do know that on his deathbed, he prayed for a few more months to live to deal with corruption that had seeped in because of the NEP. Right? So he knew that he hadn't done enough to combat corruption or to put the guardrails against corruption. And again, yes, of course, these are the side effects that he and his contemporaries didn't quite anticipate, and so these are as I said, the learnings from history. It's all there. We must learn from history. If you don't learn from history, you're prone to make the same mistakes again. Learn from history why these things are, and then maybe we have a better view of the way forwards. And relatedly, I think one of the things we should learn from Tun Razak is this whole national consultative platform, which I've been going on about. Masa you must not underestimate what happened after the 30th May incident. I always say Malaysia 1.0 was the Westminster model adopted in 57. That model collapsed in 1969. What emerged in 1971 when Parliament came back is Malaysia 2.0. Right? We changed a lot of things. The NEP, we changed Sedition Act, we had Rukun Negara, and then Warisan National Unity Government, etc. Everything changed. So then NEP was a 20-year program, but it's still around today. Apa jadi ni? Dah 50 tahun dah ni. So then you have to ask the question, did Tun Razak's 2.0 create so much vested interest in this flawed system that we never got around to Malaysia 3.0? Right? 2.0 was to kind of remake Malaysia, the foundations of that were necessary to build the Malaysian nation. But he always said that after 20 years, we mustn't have this handicap for the Malays anymore. But somehow after 20 years, they said, no, can I continue? But isn't it time for us to reflect on this?
Because it's a very sensitive thing politically.
Very sensitive. Nobody has the political capital to do it.
Not enough political capital, I think.
Yeah. And to be fair to Najib, in 2012, he had this new economic model where he talked about this needs-based affirmative action, and that caused him to lose a lot of support amongst the Malays. So it's a very, very tricky thing to do. So my idea is to take it out of the political realm, create a platform for deliberation like the National Consultative Council, put non-politicians there, let them argue and debate what is Malaysia 3.0. Don't put politicians in there.
Don't let the politicians.
And then, once they have a recommendation, put it back to the politicians.
For once, the politician have to lobby the other one.
No, but I think if you get the best and brightest or ordinary Malaysians or whatever, come up with a new way forwards and test these decisions. Test these questions like, what do you all think of, by 2050, we're all born Malaysians. By 2050, no more vernacular schools. No more affirmative action. What do you think? Is that a target we should all share? Maybe. If
And then a
everybody
measure-
agrees, we move forwards. And this process was done in Ireland when they introduced abortion. They legalized abortion in Ireland through this whole process. Right? This deliberation process was a very healthy process where non-politicians argued, right? And they changed the mind of the electorate, so much so that went for referendum. Before the process, 25% supported legalizing abortion. After this process, when they went for referendum, 2/3 supported legalizing abortion. So there's a very healthy debate process by non-politicians. You tengok lah, if you go to parliament today, how to discuss issues, everyone is
They just want to
grandstanding.
fight,
Yeah.
Every people who talk sometimes they just represent not what they think, but what the chief whip of their party told them to say. And then they don't believe what they say, but that's what they need to say in order to for their own political interest or their party's interest. So that's not the right way to debate. We need a place for debate, that is offline, debated by people who can just focus on what they impartially view as best for Malaysia. So of course, we're going to have a lot of disagreement. Right? But at least the disagreement is genuinely their disagreement and not because of some political motive.
Understand? Okay, Tan Sri, in a world where compromise is often rewarded and shortcuts are normalized, what is one principle you believe the younger generation must never compromise on, even if holding on to it costs them opportunities, comfort, or popularity?
I think integrity. I think you must only do things that you can sleep with, right? You mustn't have that guilt that you compromise integrity. And integrity ni, I think we must have some kind of red lines lah, what it means. Some people go into politics, right? And they say, they go in for the right reasons. Tapi bila dia masuk politik tu, then they, I have to compromise a bit lah. Kalau tak compromise ni, I might lose my job, right? Or I cannot get support, or I cannot raise money, right? And then, once you compromise once, then you compromise twice and all that. After a while, you're bent, right?
After a while, you become lalang.
So this is the issue lah. So I think integrity must be brought back front and center lah. And I think it's also, you understand that sometimes at the margin, sometimes you understand people have to compromise and so on and so forth, and people play the long game. But in the end of the day, don't lose sight of integrity.
I think that is very important. I think when you have integrity, you safe keep everybody as well.
Yeah.
And you make everybody feel
And the crack,
safe.
you can't tell how deep it can go.
Yeah, because
when
dia
it's,
boleh
integrity.
jadi like a domino effect, right?
Betul.
When you don't have a
Start
integrity.
small, but then it grows.
I've
It's like
also
cancer.
in the past argued that we need to have national amnesty program. If you agree that corruption is endemic in our system, the only way to deal with it is to adopt what Hong Kong adopted, which is amnesty. That
One go,
means we forgive
Start fresh.
corruption in the past, but tomorrow if you're corrupt, I shoot you.
Shoot.
Yeah, not shoot you lah, not literally lah, but
Somewhat lah.
figure of speech.
Enforce lah.
Enforce.
Tapi,
hard lah.
and because if you try and introduce all this tightening of laws, etc., don't forget the people who need to approve it have some baggage, right? Everybody's got baggage because it's a system that required you, to create baggage to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't create baggage, you cannot survive in that system.
Yeah.
Right? So if you can just forgive in the past, don't forget, even
I always thought
kadang-kadang people kata, duit kopi. Duit kopi, you don't feel so bad. And then there's the other fancy trick, which is, no, I didn't do anything. Tapi they hire consultant. Consultant yang ulu. Right? Then they say, no, I didn't do anything. I just hired a consultant. This consultant is carrying the bags, right? To me, it's the same thing lah.
Indirectly.
But some people say, hey, if I don't have a consultant, whatever, my project cannot get approved, I cannot get things done, right? So there's so many of this lah. And so I think that a whole national effort, like they did in Hong Kong, and don't forget today, if you look at some people say, oh, how come we started the same as Singapore and look where Singapore is, and one at the very core of Lee Kuan Yew's system was this,
Strict dictatorship.
strict enforcement of
strict
anti-corruption. Very, very strict. And so much so that they pay a lot of money to the civil servants. The flip side is, they zero toleration, they don't tolerate corruption at all.
Okay, Tan Sri, I want to ask you about the mindset shift. Tan Sri, when we look back at Malaysia's history, Allahyarham Tun Abdul Razak is often remembered as the father of development, the man who built institutions, policies, and the foundation of the nation. But I feel there's a deeper contribution that is less talked about. How he changed the way Malaysians thought about themselves, instilling belief, discipline, and confidence in the young nation. Do you see this as a deliberate mindset shift that Tun Razak consciously planted from the very beginning?
Probably. I don't have specific evidence of that. But I think clearly he believed that education was key, right? And a lot of time and effort was directed at uplifting education, especially with the Malays. But if you ask me who really kind of uplifted the confidence of the Malaysian, it was Mahathir lah. He did certain things. Some of them were pretty wild. Malaysia Boleh and stuff like that, right? The Proton, etc. But very much lifted the confidence of the Malaysian. I think you have to credit Mahathir lah. But I think Tun Razak again,
ignited that maybe.
Yeah, I mean they were kind of the same school. Don't forget, you had Tun Razak, and after Tun Razak, Malaysia was led by Razak boys, right? His inner circle all the way until Razak's son, right? You had, you had, Tun Hussein, then you had Mahathir, then you had Palah. Right? They were all Razak boys. And the ones that didn't make it, Razali and Musa, were very influential throughout. They were all termed Razak boys. Yeah. And they were groomed by him. And in a way, there was a Razak girl, which is Rafida.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Rafida's interesting,
yeah.
If you ask her what the history was, she was a lecturer at UM. Then there was a demonstration against the prospect of the Agong taking a second wife. So there was a ladies' demonstration that went to see Tun Razak. Right? Then when they went to the living room of our house, then they confronted Tun Razak, said this should not be allowed. And Tun Razak said something condescending like, baik, perempuan balik rumah, jaga suami, something like that. I don't know.
Back then.
And Rafida berated him.
Oh.
Yeah. And then a few years later, she got a call from him to join politics.
Oh.
Right? You think about it. Today, you go and berate your boss and see what happens to you. Right? So he was very much into talent development.
He knew what he was looking for.
Yeah, and if you're somebody who could talk back to him and all that, it was okay. It was okay. It's if he believed that you had the skills to be a future leader in Malaysia, it's okay. And
He empowers.
and you look at and he himself was quite involved in moving people around to get the right experience. If you ask Musa, Hitam, you ask Tunku Razali, you ask Tengku Syariman, all these people, their kind of experience or learning journey was designed by Tun Razak.
Wow.
Yeah, and in fact, it's ironic. If you ask Tengku Razali, actually, history could have changed because I know in 1974, Tun Razak asked him to join the cabinet, and he was CEO, I think, of Petronas and Bank Bumi those days, and he said no, he would like to continue in the corporate sector for a bit. Right. So unfortunately, when Tun Razak died, Tengku Razali did not have enough experience in cabinet. So when the part of the reason why Tun Hussein chose Mahathir instead of Tengku Razali as Deputy Prime Minister, these are all sliding door moments. Yeah, and so this whole area of talent development is something Malaysia is missing. And again, I don't want to keep bringing up Singapore, but Singapore has this down to a T.
Yeah.
If you look at their leadership development, they groom you from young, and then they plan you coming to go into politics and all that. And we need to relook at.
But Tan Sri, from your perspective, right, where and perhaps why do you think the national mindset began to fade away over time?
I think it's partly because of politics. Of course, we want to be a democracy, but sometimes there's the negative side of democracy that can kind of undermine democracy itself. So things kind of went a bit off when there was the intense contest for UMNO leadership. Yeah, so the first contest was in 1980 when Tengku Razali versus Tun Musa, right, to become Deputy Prime Minister to Mahathir. Right, then it set the tone for this kind of, winner-take-all contest within UMNO. The first contest in I think in 1980 wasn't winner take all lah, right? But already, you could tell. Then suddenly don't forget when you do that, then this whole use of ministerial posts and positions to be able to give contracts and etc. start coming into play lah. Because then what you want to do is build up your support within the party kan. So you start dishing out lah. Use and this dish out was possible because of the NEP. Right. My biggest grasp of the NEP is we said we want to give contracts to Malays. Okay, but why is it we don't let Malays compete? Instead, the process is for some politician to give you to choose who he wants to give the contract to.
Why not compete?
Why not compete? Right? If you just say you compete amongst the Malays saja lah. Right? But instead they wanted to give because there's a political benefit lah. There was the IOU. And then the IOU comes with political funding. So that whole system, right, when this contestation politics became too intense lah. Right? Before that, they orang compete for VP aja. It's when they started contesting for
Prime Minister,
deputy, and then in 1986 they contested for PM. Remember Razali versus Mahathir. So then the stakes became higher and higher in a system where, I would say Malaysia doesn't have an economy; we only have a political economy. Yeah, so everything because so then they wanted the economy to be closer and closer to politics lah. Right, that's the motivation, right?
Yep.
Okay, so now we know sort of what is the problem, right? So how then we reactivate this national mindset balik?
Yeah, which goes back to what I said just now. We need to go through a redesign process for Malaysia 3.0. We need to have the reset.
That reset.
We need to go offline, get the
system
best
reset.
brothers to do this. And, I said that this maybe should be driven by the Rulers' Council. We are very lucky, actually. I don't care what anyone says. We are very lucky to have a constitutional monarchy. And it's been proven, right, that with the pergolakan and all that, we're lucky
That we actually have
an
this.
Agong to go and come and neutralize and be another balance to politics. So we have all this. So maybe it's time that the Rulers' Council set up this consultative platform so we can redesign. And then, but it's supremacy of Parliament, so redesign and then recommend to Parliament and let Parliament decide. Supremacy is with Parliament. Yeah. This is something I have recommended, but I presented to PM Ismail Sabri then, and the cabinet rejected. I went to see Yang di-Pertuan Agong with Idris Jala and Musa Hitam. We recommended this whole thing, and I must say, Tuanku Pahang then was Agong. He rather warmed to the idea, but the cabinet rejected, and the cabinet saw it as undermining their authority lah.
But I don't think that was the intention, right?
That was never the intention. And if it was never, and I always said that this can only be done with the full blessing of the government. You form a consultative council today, you don't have backing of the government, people won't even join.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of the intellectuals also, so they don't have the stomach for the fight. They like to debate, discuss, and all that, but not fighters.
Understand? Okay, Tan Sri, I want to ask you something that many Malaysians think about, but maybe rarely hear addressed directly. You chose to speak up on issues surrounding 1MDB, and the consequences of that period were not just national, but also deeply personal. Your brother was the Prime Minister at that time, and today he is serving a prison sentence. On a very human level, beyond politics and position, how did this chapter change your relationship with Datuk Sri Najib as a brother?
No, we went through a very difficult time lah. Let's just say that. And he's not the only member of the family. There are many members of the family, and it was difficult. And at that time, my mother was also around, and so there was things I felt I really had to do. Maybe I should have done more. I don't know. And it went through different phases. But when I look back now, I have no qualms that, I did what I felt was right. Because I had privileged information, in a sense, because I'm in the financial markets. I could see this thing happening. I could see what was going on. And my only intention was to flag to him that there was something untoward going on at 1MDB. I felt that, this character, Jolo, was conducting a financial scam of massive proportions. That was my educated guess. And I suspected it based on data in the in the markets, even you could tell.
It looks suspicious, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, the history is there in my book. The first one was the TIA bonds, and I saw the deal come to market, and I couldn't understand why a government company was paying such high interest rates, right? And of course, that's been investigated now, and basically there was siphoning of the siphoning of funds as a result of it. But I guessed it, and that's why I in 2009 I told all my staff at CIMB we will never do business with 1MDB, and it got crazy. Some people during budgeting session, my staff was so upset because we were losing market share, so we didn't do business with 1MDB. And
because you were doing a lot of projects, right?
Yeah, so one staff said, "This is my budget for this year. Without 1MDB, and if CEO allows us to do business with 1MDB, ada dua budget." Somebody's do though. So we just didn't do business with 1MDB, but I kept quite silent. And then, as time passes, I got a bit more and more worried about what's happening. And then I started, trying to convince my brother, and not very successfully. And then I started speaking out in public, and that I went through a very difficult time because people around my brother felt that that's a very bad thing to do. So I got attacked on social media and all that, and it was a wild time because there's an old saying that if you stand in the middle of the road, you get run down by a bus, right? And it was true because my brother's people, I suppose you could call them that, they would attack me with social media and all that. And then the opposition would see this and say, "Oh, this is against the PM's brother." So they would double down on it, right? So both sides were attacking me at that time. It was a terrible time. And so this went on, and the rest is history. It's all there in my book. And of course, I think on hindsight today, it was a really difficult time, and I never intended it to play out this way, of course. All I wanted to do was to tell my brother, you need to do something about this. And whether it was him or the people around him that prevented him from doing something, I do not know. What he knew and didn't know, I also don't know. What I did know was definitely something bad was happening in there. So I did my best to kind of flag it out, and it goes there, it's there. And, I lobbied various rulers. I saw, Muhyiddin, I saw Mahathir all this time. And what they did with my encouragement, I don't know. With the information, the encouragement, all that, to what extent I contributed to what happened after, although alam, I don't know.
But in hindsight, right, do you ever felt like better for me to just have kept quiet at that time?
Well, I don't think it would have been the right thing to do. But now, with the hindsight of what has happened since, one could look at it in many different ways. Because Malaysia went through a chaotic 4 years.
Yep.
Yeah. Chaotic 4 years. I mean, someone did ask me, say, "Hey, when you look back, you had this, whether you try and stop 1MDB or you accept that we're going to go through a very chaotic period with all the knowledge now, which one would you accept?
Yeah.
Which one would you go for?" And I don't know. But at least, things today have kind of stabilized. We've had the same government for 3 years, and we've been able, I think, to move forwards again. And so, my only grasp today, right? Today is I don't think we have got to the bottom of 1MDB properly. 2 is I don't think there's been proper accountability, because for sure Najib wasn't the only one who could possibly have done this. It's impossible. And
He was made scapegoat juga lah in a way.
yeah, he was the PM at that time, and he said publicly, look, I'm sorry, I take ultimate responsibility, but who was actually responsible? Because there were boards with fiduciary responsibility, there was management with fiduciary responsibility who signed off on things and all that. Takkan the only person who's accountable is the PM. Something is not right. And I told one minister the other day, I said, you just think about it. Huh? If you don't get to the bottom and hold accountable the board members and all that who signed off on this, you got a problem. It's a big moral hazard. Because in future, these guys will say, no, minister asked me to do, I just do. Right?
True.
By right, the corporate law is the fiduciary responsibility is on the board members. And the CEO. Right? Not on the shareholder. Right? Definitely not on the Prime Minister. Right? So this is something that bothers me lah. Nothing personal, but it's from a national standpoint. I don't think we have dealt with 1MDB properly, and then until we do, the risk of another 1MDB remains. And that's my worry.
You don't go to the root cause, right?
We have not gone to the root cause.
Narrative.
Yeah, so I think in a way it's been politicized, and and I said again, I don't know whether what Najib's accountability was. I really don't know what transpired. Even today, with all the evidence, I still don't know. Right? But there was a scam. He's apologized. He was ultimately Prime Minister, and I think that was a good thing for him to have done. And now, I hope the nation does a better job at finding out what transpired and who were the people properly responsible. The US one is, this Goldman Sachs thing also is bizarre. The boss, this guy Tim Leisner, got 2 years. The staff, this guy Roger Ng, got 10 years. Pelik tu. Normally it's the boss, right? Who's giving instruction. Now the staff ain't kena. The boss is already, confirmed that he was party to it all. So surely it's the boss that takes more responsibility. Yeah. There's maybe some racial element here also.
But maybe it's a bit personal, but how's your relationship with Datuk Sri Najib now? And after this whole thing?
No, I think, we have, I see him quite reasonably frequently. I think, we have rebuilt a decent relationship. I mean, we are close as brothers. So, as soon as possible, I've always reached out to him, and I don't think he has allowed anything that happened to come between that personal relationship. And I'd like to think that he today understands what my agenda was.
Do you guys talk about it?
Not directly, but it's understood. And I think at that time, you must remember, and I say this often, that people in power, right, are never fully in power. And they have to rely on others. And when you rely on others, that's when you get your Rasputins. And you see every prime minister having this, and these Rasputins have, use their names in ways that even they don't know, right? And I would challenge anyone who's been in that position to disagree with me, right? A lot of Rasputins, and that's another culture that we must be careful of lah. Kadang-kadang you would receive instruction from a guy who's in the PMO. Is it from the PM? Or is it from him?
very grey now, kan?
Yeah. Thank you, Tan Sri. But we hear quite a lot of good things.
Yeah, I think,
separately from
yeah.
YMDB, everything else is
Yeah,
pretty
but
good.
I think it's very respectful juga lah how you guys,
Right.
deal with this whole thing. I'm sure you didn't do it out of, saja-saja nak buat ke apa. It was out of integrity, also wanting the best out of things, kan. So, I think the end of it, it's good that as brothers, you guys are also okay now, kan.
Yes. All right, Tan Sri. Before our final question, I believe Tan Sri mentioned a bit here and there, but I just wanted to at least have a final question on this in conjunction with the 50th anniversary of the passing of Allah Yarham Tun Abdul Razak and the new direction of Tun Razak Foundation. What are the core values you hope to pass on to the next generation that carry the essence of Tun Razak?
Yeah, I think, this Tun Razak Foundation has been around for 50 years.
Yep.
And we have always did many programs. Our remit is basically to preserve the legacy of Tun Razak and also further many of the priorities of Tun Razak. So already in this leadership, every year we have a leadership program for young Malaysians. It's a very, very good program. And we've, I think, trained 2,000 over young Malaysians over the years. And they spend like 2 weeks during the holidays, but it's a good program. And what I want to do in the 50th year is kind of shift again a bit of this program to emphasize values and methods. I think that's just so much in that we can learn from Tun Razak in that way, and I feel that we spend too much on the tangible stuff. As I said, I might even consider writing again on these things.
Yeah.
But the young person who's looking at situations, looking at tough life decisions, can maybe find the opportunity to kind of reflect on Tun Razak's legacy and maybe think, what would he have done based on these teachings? I think that would be important. I think there are things in there that the nation as a whole can learn from.
Yep.
And I keep saying to others that Malaysia needs to be young again. Right? We need to believe in the young. I always say that, I was CEO at 32. If I was CEO at 52, I would not have built CIMB the way I built it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I would not have taken those risks. The young are just much more resilient. They have much more energetic and much bolder. And I think Malaysia as a nation needs to be young again, needs to believe in the young. Tun Razak's time, we had Tan Sri Hanif Omar as IGP at 34. Tan Sri Tanah Balasingham as head of Navy at 28. Wow. We had deputy ministers, Rafida, Musa, all these cadre of young deputy ministers. Sekarang ni, the position of deputy minister is part of the political negotiation.
Mostly uncle lah.
Mostly uncle or grandpa lah. We should give it to the young. It's the training ground for them to be future leaders of the nation. So we need to go back to those kind of tenets from Tun Razak. And I think 50 years maybe is a good opportunity for the nation as a whole to kind of reflect on his legacy. And I think the different years can reflect on different leaders' legacies. But I'd like 2026 for us to kind of pause and think about what we can learn from the legacy of the master builder.
Yeah.
And Tun Razak is one person who would want us to learn from what he did right and what he did wrong. I think he would hate it if we just spend our time thinking that he was the greatest person, greatest leader, and then you don't learn from that. You learn from accepting that we're all human. We do right things and wrong things.
Yep.
And it's very powerful. And even today, I teach. I mentor CEOs for McKinsey, right? And one of the things I always do is start off with telling these guys what I did wrong, what decisions I did wrong, why I did make those decisions, and on hindsight they were wrong. And I said, you can learn more from my mistakes. right?
What not to do.
What not to do. And I think that's one thing I really would like 2026 to be about, to really an opportunity this 1 year to kind of reflect and learn, because I think Tun Razak's legacy is all about what it can do for the future of Malaysia.
Yeah.
The past is nice to look back on, but the practical thing is to build the future of Malaysia using what we have in the past.
Tan Sri, this is a question from me lah. Just now you spoke about the Razak boys, but that was the political boys. But I want to know about the real Razak boys and the original Razak boys, which are you and your brothers. How's your relationship with your brother growing up? And maybe you can talk a bit about, maybe a bit light on how your relationship, you guys' relationship like between the four brothers. Five brothers. Oh.
No, we're very close. We have been very close. The gaps between the ages are a bit wide. Najib and Joe, the first two, are 1 year apart. And then the number 3, number 4, number 5 are all 4 years apart. So we are, but even till today, every Sunday night, we get together. The brothers get together, and the wives and families and all get together. I guess we speak to each other very frequently, even though our business, we don't do business or whatever together. It's just that family bond. I'm the youngest, and I probably the noisiest lah.
Smart mouth,
I know when you're young in a 5-boy situation, right?
Yeah.
You basically spend your life challenging.
Yeah.
What is it that makes you last? Right? Because kita very hierarchical. Even today, when we meet, I sit at the end lah.
I'm
I'm the youngest. I'm the adik bongsu, right? So you're always having to shout to be heard, and all that, And then we had this very traditional household, with I think it was only when I was 7 years old I was allowed to eat with the family.
Oh.
Before that, I eat with the servants at the back.
Oh.
This is all traditional British upstairs downstairs style lah. Yeah. So the kids are not to be heard, at the dinner table, and of course they always tease me because I was meant to be a girl.
Oh,
Yeah.
They thought you were going to be a girl lah.
No, after 4 boys, probability, right? Definitely going to be a girl. So I grew up wearing girls' clothes. So I'm always very conscious of masculinity right now.
So as kids, were they fun people? Were they like, yalah semua anak
They used to be
PM,
bash. No, my brothers bashed me up.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So not so fun lah.
Tough. No. We're tough but loving environment. You're boys, right? But it was, by the time I was conscious, Najib and Joe had already left. So there's basically 3 of us growing up together. The other 2, and those days, didn't have money. So they wouldn't come back very often. Once you're off, you come back maybe once every 2 years. Those days, right?
And when you were in the UK, did you spend time with your brothers?
Yes, of course. Then later on, Malaysians had generally more money. It was easier to come back more often and all that. But but even till today, those days under Tun Razak, it was one thing. I guess kind of closing sharing was dia punya, one of his, the most important saying of Tun Razak was always this: jaga nama baik. That was the most important thing. He used to always say that. So we always grew up like in a fishbowl. You always felt conscious that you had to be very wary of how people look at you. Because duduk kat rumah tu, most days there will be rombongans, ordinary folk just coming to look around the house, So there was very little privacy. So jaga nama baik, constantly there. And the related statement is, nanti apa orang kata. Those I can hear Tun Razak saying that lah, always very conscious. So even today, sometimes it nudges me sometimes. If you do this, nanti apa orang kata. But if you have to remember today lah, with social media, not so easy to handle. There always orang kata buruk. There's always orang kata buruk.
Ada je cari
angle lah. So today I keep telling people, you just have to focus on what you're doing, what you believe is the right thing lah. Kalau you dengar, because orang tak suka cakap benda yang baik-baik kan. They just keep to themselves, right?
Yep.
the one that contribute yang kutuk only, right? So you just have to accept lah.
Understand. Thank you, Tan Sri.
Yeah.
Okay, Tan Sri, our last question for today. We have come to almost an end. Very sad for us. But yeah, okay. So Tan Sri, looking back at your journey, right? If you had the chance to speak to your 30-year-old self and at the same time speak to the younger generation of Malaysians out here, what is one lesson about leadership, integrity and life that you feel that truly matters?
I think today I would probably tell them that it's a long game and your health matters. That's why I failed, I think. I worked very hard all the time. And even when I went home, my mind was at work. And, I suppose that turned out to be a great thing for the business. But I think there was still, on hindsight, room to have kept exercising properly, doing the medical checks properly. I think I regret that. And that caused this cancer to come early. And my cancer it could have gone horribly wrong, as I said, if I had not discovered it by accident. 3 or 4 months later, it would have spread. And when it spreads, your probability of survival goes from 90% to 25%. Right? So in that way, I come to terms with having, a near-death experience because I think I live a very stressful life. I didn't balance properly. I remember those days, very little sleep and, work. And I look at it today, and I've met a lot of people along the way, and Zafrul is one who is very good at this work-life balance. He is like, marathon man, Iron Man, and all that. He's very good at balancing it and his health.
Yep.
And I would encourage people to follow that lead. Not my lead. I used to smoke 2 packs a day, and it was that's my big takeaway lah. But as I said, there are other takeaways that and today my life today is I have this private equity firm that pays the bills, and then the balance of my time is trying to impart
Wisdom to others.
impart, I wouldn't say wisdom lah, impart experience and knowledge, right? Whether it's wisdom or not, it's up to them to decide lah.
But from hearing from you,
us,
I know it's wisdom.
But I tell you what I learned lah.
Clearly.
And then, hopefully it makes it where, you guys can learn and be more successful because of it, right?
Inshallah.
Thank you so much, Tan Sri. I think, from hearing your story, I definitely learned a lot. And one of the things I really like about you is the fact that you see the glass half full instead of half empty. You always see the benda yang baik yang terjadi selepas whatever problems that you gone through. And I think growing up with privilege ataupun someone yang have a father like Prime Minister apa semua, I'm sure a lot of pressure, a lot of a lot of people punya expectation, but I think you have done an amazing job. You have created your own legacy, and I'm sure if your father was still around, he'll be very proud to see what you have achieved. So thank you so much, Tan Sri, for sharing with us, and I hope what we learn can also be beneficial for everyone who's watching today as well. Anything from you, Wak?
Thank you so much, Tan Sri. I think just a short one. Really appreciate your sharing today with us, and I think it's a good start for 2026 with the Tun Razak legacy that you've shared, Tan Sri. And I'm super excited to start the year with this episode being our first episode ever. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tan
Thank you.
Sri.
I've had a good time chatting with you guys. It's about imparting, but for this time, imparting about my past and also about Tun Razak. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tan Sri.
Alright, to everyone, thank you so much for watching. Inshallah, we'll come back next week with a new episode, and we'll see you guys again next week. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.